Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 9:32. And second order of business is approval of agenda. Any amendments, additions, deletions?
Good morning. Just curious, I know last year when we did the organizational meeting and then we started doing our council committee, we didn't do chair and vice chair. So I was just wondering if that should be added today.
Can we deal with that under 5.1? Is it appropriate? Is it part of 5.1?
I don't know.
I think the committee should do it personally.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I think the committee should do it at the committee meetings.
Oh, I
the
see.
committee
At the
meetings.
commit,
That's
that's what
what
you're
we've
saying.
historically done, but that doesn't mean we couldn't change it.
Oh, I just heard that comment last year. We didn't do it here, so I just didn't know if it had to be. No, it's fine.
Okay.
Because some of the committees aren't comprised only of us, so then.
Correct.
Oh, of course. Okay,
I mean,
thank you.
that doesn't apply to everyone, but
I think the only exception is Ag Service Board. I know that one should be appointed by council, but the other boards, that's a good point. Other additions, deletions? Yes,
under 5.1, the line that reads Northeast Alliance for Growth and Opportunity should be deleted from the committee listing. That's a meeting that's attended by the Reeve. It's not something council appoints. And secondly, under 7.1, I wanted to add policy 2011, which is the policy that requires us to set meal rates at the org meeting. So even though it's coming up in the council meeting, the policy is they get set here. So in that space, hopefully we'll move a motion to set meal rates and then we can make changes if we want in the council meeting, but that way we're lined up with our policy. 7.1, just because it says
So-
items added to the
policy 2011.
Yeah.
Meal rates.
meal rates.
More? Thank you. All for the motion? Those against? Carried. Thank you. Third order of business, election of Reeve. Like to ask for a nomination for the position of Reeve. First point. Yeah, Councilor.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Counselor Hall for Reeve of Athabasca County. I feel Reeve Hall has been an excellent representative for Athabasca County, has promoted strong regional partnerships, and will continue to provide great leadership to our council as we continue to build upon the momentum that we've created over the past year.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. I'd like to ask for any second nominations for position of Reeve. And I'll ask a third time for nominations for position of Reeve. Having heard none. Reeve Hall, you can take the position here. You're declared Reeve.
Thank you. The second item of business is the election of Deputy Reeve. The floor is open to nominations for the position of Deputy. Councillor Kapitanek.
I would like to nominate Councillor Ashton Anderson for the role of Deputy Reeve. She continues to provide exceptional diligence and supports the role of the Reeve whenever called upon.
Okay, on for a second time, the floor is open to nominations for the position of Deputy Reeve. For a third time, the floor is open to nominations for position of Deputy Reeve. Seeing no one making motion, Councillor Anderson, congratulations on your election to the position of Deputy Reeve. Please bear with me a second while I grab some. The fifth item of business on the agenda is the appointment to committees, boards, and the like. I think sorry, in an earlier discussion, is there anyone that wants to make a, we've got kind of a, the discussions on the table have been status quo. Councillor Mins, did you want to kind of post the nomination of the committees as presented, or do we want to go through them, do nominate individually? Okay. So then I'll work through the list and we can ask for additional ones as we go, if that works for everybody. But this way I've got something to start on. So Councillor Mins has moved. I'm going to work at the bottom up because we've worked top down the last couple times. Water North Coalition, there is one seat and one alternate. The nominees are Councillor Cromwell as the main and Councillor Mins as the alternate. Are there any further nominations? Second time, are there any further nominations? And are there any further nominations? Seeing none, congratulations, Councillors Mins and Cromwell, on your election. Sorry, I'm just gonna. For the Summer Village of Island Lake Intermunicipal Development Planning Commission, there is one chair available or one seat available. And the nomination is for Councillor Mins. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? And are there any others? Seeing none, Councillor Mins, congratulations. Colleagues, can I ask a question procedurally? Do you feel that if I call once and pause, that that's adequate? Is there any objection to that? Seeing none, that will adopt that procedure just to. And we need to make sure everybody gets heard. Summer Village of Bond is Intermunicipal Development Planning Commission. There is one seat available and the nomination is for Councillor Anderson. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, Councillor Anderson, congratulations on being the Intermunicipal Development Planning Commission member. Summer Village of Baptiste Lake Intermunicipal Development Planning Commission, one seat available, nominated to Councillor Mins. Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, declare Councillor Mins elected by acclamation. Regional Waterline Feasibility Steering Committee. I'm not sure that's an ad hoc committee. I'm not clear that that needed to be on here either, but there's one seat available to the county and the nomination is for Councillor Mins. Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, Councillor Mins is reappointed to that committee. Regional Healthcare Recruitment Retention Committee. There's one seat plus an alternate. The main seat is nominated Councillor Wallach with the alternate Councillor Anderson. Are there any further nominations?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Holland for an alternate.
Okay, so Councillor Holland, do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
So on the Regional Healthcare Recruitment and Retention Committee, we have Councillor Anderson and Councillor Holland nominated as the alternate, Councillor Wallach as the main. Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, would declare Councillor Wallach elected as the main member, and we will ask Ms. Blair to distribute ballots to elect the alternate. We need a ballot with with one line. Oh, sorry. Do we want to do this by secret ballot or show of hands? Is there anyone that wants secret ballot? That's the real question. If the answer is no, given that Councillor Anderson nominated first, I will ask all those in favor of Councillor Anderson as the alternate on that board. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those in favor of Councillor Holland as the alternate. 2, 4, 5. Okay, Councillor Holland, congratulations. Councillor Holland has been elected. Regional Emergency Advisory Committee. There are 2 seats nominated. The nominees are Councillor Anderson and Councillor Hall. Are there any further nominations? Councillor Holland?
I'm just curious about this one also being on the list. I thought that that was in policy that it was Reeve and Deputy Reeve positions.
I believe.
Yeah, I don't think that needs to be here.
I thought that, felt that, but I didn't check. Then I think the safest bet is to just leave it as is and not nominate anybody and we've got it covered either here or there. And then maybe Ms. Blair could make a note, or the CO could make a note to just double check that for next year. Given that there seems to be no additional nominations, Regional Healthcare Advisory Committee, Councillors Hall and Anderson are elected. Northern Lights Library Board, there is one seat available and the nominee is Councillor Chamzik. Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, Councillor Chamzik, congratulations, you are elected by acclamation to the Northern Lights Library. Joint Rec Committee has 2 chairs plus an alternate. The nominees are Councillors Kapitanek and Anderson, with Councillor Holland as the alternate. Are there any additional nominations? Councillor Anderson?
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Reeve Hall for the alternate.
Okay. Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, the acclamation of the 2 main chairs goes to Councillor Anderson and Kapitanek. And on the Joint Rec Committee, we need to vote on Councillor Holland or Councillor Hall. All those in favor of Councillor Holland. Councillor Holland, congratulations. Greater North Foundation, the nomination is Councillor Hall. Are there any further nominations? Okay, then we'll declare myself elected. That's weird, but to the Greater North Foundation. That seems kind of like a dictatorship, doesn't it? I appoint myself. Farm Women's Conference Award and Planning, there's 1 chair plus an alternate. The alternate is nominated as Councillor Anderson with the main as Councillor Wallach. Are there any further nominations to the Farm Women's? Seeing none, congratulations. They declare Councillors Wallach and Anderson as chair, or not chair, the main member and the alternate respectively for the Farm Women's. FCSS, we have 2 chairs plus an alternate. The nominees are Councillor Gerlich and Councillor Chamzik, with Councillor Holland as the alternate. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, declare Councillors Gerlich and Chamzik as the main members and Councillor Holland as the alternate. County Library Board, we have 2 chairs and the members are Councillors Cromwell and Chamzik. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, congratulations, Councillors Cromwell and Chamzik are elected by acclamation to the County Library Board. Community Transportation, there's 1 seat plus an alternate. The alternate is Councillor Anderson. The main is Councillor Holland. Are there any additional nominations? Councillor Holland.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Councillor Chamzik for alternate.
Okay, are there any other nominations? The Community Transportation main chair goes to Councillor Holland, and we will be voting on the alternate, Councillor Anderson or Councillor Chamzik. In all those voting for Councillor Anderson, please raise your hand. Okay, Councillor Chamzik. Councillor Chamzik, congratulations. Community Futures is 1 plus an alternate. My understanding was Councillor Chamzik wanted to decline the nomination. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I would like to nominate Councillor Capitania,
Okay,
please.
and Councillor Kapitanek. So we have Councillor Kapitanek as the main and Councillor Gerlich as the alternate. Are there any other nominations for Community Futures? Councillor Gerlich? I think Councillor Chamzik wish to remain on as alternate. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're declining? Okay, so Councillor Gerlich has declined the alternate's role. Councillor Chamzik would like, or has been nominated by Councillor Gerlich as the alternate. So on Community Futures, the nominees are Councillor Kapitanek as the main and Councillor Chamzik as the alternate. Are there any other nominations for that board? It's kind of like nominations. Okay, those are declared elected by acclamation. Community Education Committee, we have 1 plus an alternate. It says 1 plus an alternate, but we don't have an alternate on the list.
I believe we removed the alternate.
Yeah,
before.
I think that's just a typo on the sheet. Given that it's a liaison role, unless anybody objects, we'll either leave the alternate blank or consider it removed. The nominee is Councillor Cromwell. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, Councillor Cromwell is elected to the Community Education Committee. Boyle Public Library Board has one seat available, and my understanding was Counselor Anderson was declining the nomination, and Counselor Anderson
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Counselor Chamzik.
and Counselor Anderson has nominated Counselor Chamzik, so there is one seat and one nominee. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, Counselor Chamzik is elected to the Boyle Public Library Board. Boyle Community Advisory Board Portage, there's one there, plus an alternate. The main nominee there is Counselor Anderson with the alternate Counselor Chamzik. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, who declare Counselor Anderson and Counselor Chamzik elected to the main and alternate positions respectively. Boyle Area Intermunicipal Development Planning Commission has two plus an alternate. The main seats are Counselors Chamzik and Anderson with Counselor Kapitanek as the alternate. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, I would declare Counselors Chamzik and Anderson elected and Counselor, sorry, did I have that right? Counselor Kapitanek is the alternate, Counselors Anderson and Chamzik is the main. Blue Heron Vocational Training, there is one seat plus an alternate. The nominee is Counselor Gerlich plus myself as the alternate. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, declare the Counselor Gerlich elected to the Blue Heron Vocational Training, Counselor Hall as the alternate. Athabasca Watershed Council, there is one plus an alternate. The main is Counselor Minns with Counselor Cromwell as the alternate. Are there any additional nominations to the Watershed Council? Seeing none, declare Councilors Minns and Cromwell elected as the main and alternate to the Watershed Council respectively. Regional Waste Management has two seats plus an alternate. The seats are Counselor Hall and Minns with the alternate Counselor Cromwell. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, declare the election of the Regional Waste Management Commission seats to Councilors Minns and Hall with Counselor Cromwell as the alternate. Regional Economic Development Committee has two seats, and those are nominated to Councilors Kapitanek and Counselor Wallach. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, declare Counselor Wallach and Kapitanek elected to the ARED Regional Committee. Athabasca Regional Multiplex Society, there are three seats plus an alternate. The nominations are Councilors Kapitanek, Anderson, and Wallach with Hall as the alternate. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, declare the election on the Multiplex Society to Councilors Kapitanek, Anderson, and Wallach as the main with Hall as the alternate. Athabasca Landing Trail has two seats and an alternate. The nominees are Councilors Gerlich and Holland with Counselor Wallach as the alternate. Are there any additional nominations? Counselor Holland.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Counselor Chamzik as alternate.
Are there any additional nominations? Counselor Wallach declines the alternate nomination, and so Counselor Chamzik is elected to the position of alternate on the trail, and Councilors Holland and Gerlich are elected to the main seats. Athabasca Intermunicipal Development Planning Commission has three seats plus an alternate. The seats on that committee are Councilors Hall, Holland, and Minns, with the alternate as Counselor Kapitanek. Are there any additional nominations? That committee never meets. It's a good one. Okay, so the election of the chairs to the Intermunicipal Development Planning Commission goes to Councilors Minns, Holland, and Hall with Counselor Kapitanek as the alternate. Athabasca Regional Water Services Commission has two chairs plus an alternate. The nominations are Councilors Cromwell and Minns, and I think Hall was the alternate in last year, although it's not listed. Counselor, are there any additional nominations? It's Counselor Kapitanek, your hand is up.
Nominate Reeve Hall as a seat. You don't, and you said there was an alternate. I wanted to nominate Counselor Wallach as an alternate, but I see there was no name on the slide.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that was missed.
Okay, on Watershed Commission, are there any additional nominations? Oh, sorry, yeah, Water Services Commission. So the nominees are Counselor Hall, Counselor Cromwell, Counselor Mins, we'll have to have an election. We need a ballot with two signatures, because that one,
Do like four and then
and that two and an alternate.
to an alternate, like
Yep.
all at once. Would you do the alternate separate?
Procedurally, do you want to vote separately on the alternate, a separate ballot? That probably
put it
makes
all,
sense. Yep, let's do that. So a ballot with, even if you don't have it, just do a separate two slot ballot for the a one slot ballot for the alternate and a two slot ballot for the main.
Do we need a
May
ballot?
I just ask a question?
I want to be secret ballot.
Yes,
I mean,
I'm asking if you are also nominated as. an
Oh.
alternate, and now you're nominated as a main seat, you have to vote.
Right. I think though, if that were to, so if you're elected to the main seat, then the other one declines and then that one becomes acclamation regardless of the result. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, I'll ask for ballots. Do you want to see out?
There's a vote. You've asked for secret ballot.
I have, yeah,
Okay.
because I think that's. So we need a two slot ballot and a one slot ballot. The one slot ballot is for the role of alternate, which may or may not be required, but vote on it anyway. If, depending on the results of the two slot ballot, they may not have to declare the results of the other. Yeah. Okay. That's how I can live with that process.
Let's do- yeah.
Information of council. We'll use two staff members.
Perfect.
That's best practice. Just for information of council, we'll be using staff members that are not at the table to review the ballots. Just to guarantee impartiality.
Yep. So as you're doing it, the nominations are count for the two main seats, Councillors Hall, Cromwell and Mins. Sorry, this needs to be we need a two space ballot, not a one space.
Oh, I thought we were doing one.
Right, but you have to nominate, oh,
This first nomination.
no, like we nominate the first two seats and then. Or,
We'll keep distributing the and we'll give instructions to everyone.
yeah, or put two names. Do you want to do two? Historically, we voted for both at the same time on the ballots. Are we changing that? No, okay.
So Chair.
So we'll,
Question here. Yes.
no, Leah's got a separate ballot for that. Just use that.
Sorry, can I just speak? I have a ballot with number one, number two, and an alternate. Does this ballot work?
Yes,
Just to clarify with council, you know how you're using the ballot. Two
Okay,
regular
so
members
leave
and
the
an
alternate
alternate.
line blank and you're good.
Okay, thank you.
I win. So this is the vote on the two main seats. I would leave the alternate blank. The CAO's recommendation is leave the alternate blank. So on this ballot, you're only voting for the two main seats unless council wants to do something different.
No, Mr.
No, you
Chairman,
wanna
we
go all three?
clarified, we're not doing that.
We're gonna do all
We're
three.
using it as it's laid out, the two members plus the alternate, all on one ballot.
Okay,
Is that fair?
voted on anything before, I guess. Yes, yes. You know, if this was RMA, we would have some really exciting music to play. So just as a comparison at AM, they had live music where the guy sang and played. No, this is just some guy from with a piano. They must have a little bit more dough than RMA. On the main two seats, the candidates selected are Councillors Minns and Hall, and on the alternate, it would be Councillor Wallach. Yep. On the, so it is, because it's secret ballot, we need a motion to ratify the votes, the election. Councillor Anderson moves to ratify the results of the secret ballot election. All those in favor? Opposed? That's 9-0. Alternate Land Use Services, the nominee is Councillor Minns, sorry, I'm just, my lines are getting crossed. Councillor Minns, there's one seat. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, Councillor, sorry, I'll give him more of a pause. Councillor Minns is elected to the Alternate Land Use Services Committee. Ellis Donahue Library Archives and Board. The one seat and the nominee is Councillor Chamzik. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, Councillor Chamzik is elected to the Ellis Donahue Library Archives Board. Alberta Hub, the one seat, and Councillor Wallach has been nominated. Are there any additional nominees? Seeing none, Councillor Wallach is elected to Alberta Hub. Oh, and Alberta Ag Services Board. We have nominees for Councillors Gerlich, Chamzik, Minns, and Wallach. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, Ag Services Board has councillors elected to the Ag Services Board are Councillors Gerlich, Chamzik, Minns, and Wallach. There are no nominations for the Alberta Community Crime Prevention Association. Does anyone want to make a nomination? Or we'd want to leave it blank? Okay, let's, someone want to move to just table that till after budget?
Move to table that to the next organization meeting.
So the Alberta Community Crime Prevention Project Association has been tabled to the next organizational meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? 8-1, and the motion is adopted. As a matter of safety, I think a motion to ratify and confirm the results of the balloting and elections to the committees as outlined on the list. Councillor Kapitanek. All those in favor? Opposed? 8-1, and the motion is adopted. Item number 5.2 in your agenda is election to the Municipal Planning Commission. The recommended motion is to appoint all members of council to that committee. Is there anyone willing to move that motion? Councillor Chamzik has made a motion to appoint to the scrutineers. Thank you for coming, Lorraine and Tammy. Sorry. Councillor Chamzik has made a motion to appoint all members of council to the Municipal Planning Commission. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none. Because you were laughing. On the adoption of the motion were you listening is what I was going to say.
Always.
On the adoption of the motion to appoint all members of council to the Municipal Planning Commission, all those in favor? That is carried 9-0. Item number 5.3 is the County Library Board. There's a recommended motion here. Before I ask for someone to make that motion, I have a question for administration that may change the motion. On our members at large, is there a reason we don't set them to a 3-year terms?
Sorry,
Do you know the
that is something that we are working on structurally on that board. We are going through a whole tour of terms of reference and everything like that, and it should be upcoming here shortly.
Okay. So there is a recommended motion to ratify the current members of the library board as follows: Councillors Chamzik and Cromwell, public members Maury, Malott and Hogarth, and administrative member Chernichen. Is Councillor Minns would like to move that? Okay. Councillor Minns has moved the recommended motion, which is the current members of the library board as listed on your agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, on the question of the adoption of the motion to ratify Councillors Chamzik and Cromwell with terms expiring November 1 of 2024, Councillors public members Maury, Malott and Hogarth with terms expiring September 30th, and the administrative member Chernichen expiring September 30th, 2024. All those in favor? That is adopted 9-0. Meeting dates in your agenda package. There is a list of recommended meeting dates. Is there anyone willing to move a motion to approve the proposed meeting date schedule? Councillor Cromwell, your hand was up.
Yes, I would actually like some discussion on that.
So let's move the motion and then discuss it. Or do you want to discuss it first?
I would like to discuss it first.
Given that, I think this is one that probably the simplest. The number of amendments that are possible if we start doing that. Let's just go with the discussion first, then move a motion. Councillor Cromwell, do you want to share your thoughts?
Thank you. It's not an issue with the county council meetings, but I would like some discussion on, and I don't know if it will fit into this category, but actually scheduling regular policy and COW meetings as we do with other meetings on certain dates throughout the year.
I propose to that's would be more properly handled in the council portion of our day under calendars. Because the requirement of the org meeting is to set council meeting dates. Unless there's wild disagreement on that. Councillor Wallach.
Just as a heads up, in January, the ASB conference is from the 22nd to the 24th in Lethbridge. So we probably won't make it back for the 25th.
24th, Lethbridge is a long way.
Just calendar change.
We can probably push that in calendars.
Yeah.
And then we've got the regular schedule. The other bit that I saw with this is like looking at it and thinking sort of about how do we make less work for future councils? Next time we adjust our procedural bylaw, I'll try to remember to propose we automatically exclude the last meeting in December, because it's always in it. We should just bake it into the rules. But Councillor Kapitanek said she was willing to move the motion to approve the proposed council meeting dates. Councillor Minns, discussion.
I was just wondering, I see we have
two less meeting, one less meeting in July and one less meeting in August. And what I noticed over the summer is that they're long meetings. The first one we go to, should we look at maybe doing two meetings in July and one meeting in August? And then that way, because that's way kind of the committees do, they do less meetings in August. That's the way it worked last year. Or I guess this year. Less
Well, it
meetings in
is,
August.
you know, the floor is open to discuss adding meetings in July.
I don't-
So Counselor Mins is, you know, let's assume, given the mood of the room, you'd be prepared to make an amendment and propose something there. Counselor Kapitanek, your thoughts?
I may be corrected if I'm wrong, but I think that the purpose of that is because it is the most popular time for administration to be on holidays. They are running less staff throughout those months. And so ideally, one meeting that might be heavier for us is still taken care of in one period of time. That's just what I'm thinking, or how I kind of heard it. And that makes sense in any organization. That is when everyone wants their holidays. Except for us, we don't do those things. We work.
My bias would be to leave it like this, and then as we look at it, to decide, as we get close to that, we can add meetings. But out of respect for the administrative team, and also this year, like, those were atrocious meetings. But one of them had a 6-hour public hearing, and if that hadn't been part of the meeting, it would have been actually. Would have been, yeah, we would have. It would have been done by, 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then. It gives us time to, if we want, be flexible about, are we gonna pack in additional committee meetings in that time or less, but anyway, that's my feeling. Other thoughts? Counselor Holland, I think, just said she likes longer meetings.
Yeah, longer meetings are great meetings, but yeah, in addition to not only staff having that time off, but it's also a time for most people to have family reunions and everything else. So I find there was a lot more events that we were attending as well during that time frame. So I don't know.
Counselor Means Fall.
Can I just rebut on everything? I have no problem with it. It's just, and I'm not picking on administration to say that you have to put in more work and stuff like that. I'm just looking at all of a sudden we end up with 3 delegations and a bunch of stuff happening in this one meeting. And it's like, oh my word. And it's just a lot of information to take in one meeting. So that's the only reason I was looking at that. You know what? Hey, I'll take a day off too. I have no problem there.
Well, and again, I think the option is open to us to call additional ones as we feel needed. Is everybody satisfied with the schedule as proposed by council administration and moved by Councillor Kapitanek? On the question of the adoption of the motion to approve the proposed 2023-24 council meeting date schedule as attached, all those in favor? That's 9-0. The motion is adopted. Um. 7.1 is policy 2011. I know there's no package for you on this one. The policy, which is included in the council meeting agenda, just reminds us that at this meeting, we are required to set meal reimbursement rates. And so it would be in order to take on a motion to set meal reimbursement rates at 20 for breakfast, 25 for lunch, and 30 for dinner. Is someone willing to?
So moved.
Councillor Cromwell has moved. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, on the question of the adoption of the motion to approve the meal reimbursement rates at 20 breakfast, 25 lunch, and 30 for dinner, supper. All those in favor? That's 9-0, and that motion is adopted. We have a 8.1. There was a item deferred to this meeting around the items to be included in the agenda package regarding committee reporting. There is, I think this is one probably that still warrants that discussion. I want to open the floor to comments. So I think we weren't all on the same page in terms of what goes in the agenda, or does someone want to move a motion? Councillor Holland, the floor is yours.
There you go. The recommended motion is to continue the current practice of committee reporting.
I I find, in my view, that is fairly obscure. Because the whole point of this being here is because we weren't clear on, the current practice was under debate. And so it varies a little bit. So I think the point of the discussion was to nail down what does council expect to be in our agenda package. So let's,
You want me to speak about that?
yep, let's,
Perfect.
the floor is
Um,
yours.
Thank you. The current practice of committee reporting, from what I understood this to be was from how we give our verbal reports, et cetera. I didn't include what was actually going to be on the agenda in that thought on that recommendation. However, what I would like to see, and I'm not sure what happened, that when, for example, I'll just use Athabasca Landing Trail, when the minutes are sent in, and then we have to now ask for them to be on the agenda, that switched in May, and I'm not sure why. If we could automatically have those added back in to the agendas without having to do that extra step, I think that would be great. But I know it was also with the Pembina that day that we went through that in May. And I didn't know that Pembina was a closed meeting. So I'm not sure how that would fly with regards to when those minutes are sent to administration.
Okay, other discussion? Councillor Anderson?
I find a lot more value when colleagues have a written summary about updates to their committees or verbal updates. I think that they give us the information a lot more clearly about what we're looking for, as opposed to including just minutes of the meetings in the agenda package. Minutes don't really add a lot of context unless you have the agenda package from that meeting as well. So I just don't think that simply adding the minutes to the agenda, council agenda package really adds a lot of value. And when this topic was originally brought up, I had a lot more concern about not necessarily our committees, but the other events we were attending, the conferences and the trainings and that kind of stuff. And I think that my concerns about those kinds of items have already been addressed in our new council remuneration policy. So I no longer have those concerns at this time.
Councillor Kapitanek, then Mins, I think is the order I saw you at least.
I just like to speak to say when this was originally brought up and then brought to this meeting, I was then of the opinion that minutes were that I wanted to see minutes in the agendas, but it's come to my attention how much paper we're using for those that get printed agendas, and that's always been a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. And I figured out very quickly that if I wanted to see the minutes to any committee or meeting that I'm not attending, I can ask the representative. And so I had changed my perception on that. And I agree that a verbal and a written update at committee of the whole and our counselor updates is more than enough. And if I wanted to see the minutes of the Waste Commission, I could ask you for them. So I think that that's more onus on us.
Councillor Holland, I'll give you the opportunity to speak last.
So that was just my point that
Give everybody else the first go. Councillor Mins. Councillor Mins, floor is yours.
I
Thank
guess
you.
my thoughts on it are, I don't know if I really want to see all the minutes and everything. I'm good with the agendas. I'd like to see the agendas because the agendas in the county council agenda could bring up, a little bit of discussion. All of a sudden, hey,
And I assume you
what
mean
about
the agenda,
the agenda,
sheet,
yeah,
not
yeah,
the
the
agenda
front
package,
package,
like
just
that's
the
in
front
90 pages.
front page that says what's on the agenda that meeting that day. And then that could bring up some discussion on whatever's happened in that meeting. All of a sudden, you might want to, let's pick on the multiplex. Yeah, all of a sudden, hey, this is what we're talking about, and hey, what about this item? Minutes. The other thing is I think if we're getting too many, let's say we go with the minutes and everything and we're getting. I don't get a printed copy of the agenda, county council agenda. I run off the computer. But I think we could request that we don't get that put in our agenda that gets printed off. Just print my agenda and
I think that the one time that I'm I feel like the one time I did ask for that, it sounded like it actually created almost more work than just hitting print and going and getting it later.
Yeah, well, then let's go back to the agenda copies.
Others who haven't spoken, Councilor Graylock. I mean, for me personally, I think I read every page that comes in the agenda generally, except the flyers about, you know, the courses that are going on. Because most of those are gone, you know, over by the time we get them. I would find more value in a 2-paragraph written summary that goes into the package, or a good verbal report, than having any of that paper put in. And I think, you know, specifically for me, what we want to be careful about becoming, where the county is not the repository of minutes and agendas and data from other organizations. Our own committees have their own agendas. We have places where we store that, so it doesn't need to be duplicated in a council agenda. And the council agenda for me is an inappropriate place to have other organizations full packages, but because I'd rather just have a summary from the rep, because I think I get more out of that when I hear, you know, on trails what Councillor Holland reports on them doing versus reading the little bit that comes out of it. Councillor Chepson.
So what about some of the liaison positions and stuff? If you are not in attendance at that meeting, you know, usually those minutes are very short in their entirety anyways to enter them. Do you foresee that as being an issue? And then thinking about FCSS with confidentiality, so on, so forth, just the verbal summary would suffice.
I mean, it's up, I mean, that's the discussion is here to get the collective feedback on it. That's, I mean, I like the verbal one, because then you can give us, for me, it's the highlights. I don't want the deep, like, I don't want all the details. So let's go back to Councillor Holland, and then we should make a decision on what we want to do.
Thank you so much. I'm hearing around the table, and I think all the points that have been made are really good. The one concern though that I do have is in the agendas are not just for councillors, they're also for the public. So the public then misses out on seeing some of that information. And I'm very much a proponent of making sure that the public has access as easily as possible. But on the other hand, if, you know, I understand totally about the paper, I'm guilty, I'm old school, I need to have that paper in front of me. Maybe we can look at a link to where those minutes are held. And maybe that's the easier, quicker way. I'm not really sure. Maybe not. But it's something to consider. I know that, for example, the Retention and Health Committee, I think, is an amazing committee. I think it has a lot of good information, but to try and find the minutes is near impossible. So maybe if we could, but I mean, maybe we could bring that onto our website to have those minutes there so that we have availability to our public, that they can see what's happening. They can see some of these other different committees. So I'm all about the access and the ease of access. And so that's where I'm at with regards to adding the agenda is a great idea because it gives you the meat, and then the potatoes, you've got the minutes. So either or, but as long as we have ease of access for our public is my main concern there, as well as some of these other committees, like you mentioned, they're not done through our council, they're held somewhere else. So we should be able to have those links to those websites to where those are posted on our website so that people can find them as well. So that's my main concern with that. How we go about it is a different ball of wax.
It seems like, you know, in part, the concern you're addressing relates to the other organizations aren't doing a good job at making the minutes accessible. And perhaps that's one of the paths that we should look at as a group, is encouraging them to make sure their minutes are accessible. If we, you know, are at the spot where we think, is it really our responsibility to make sure a third party organization's minutes are publicly available? I'll, you know, stay with no, it's not our job. But as a member of that committee, we should be advocating to say, we've got to get our minutes in a place where they are available and accessible. And I had the pleasure of attending a town council meeting a couple of weeks ago. I've shared that with you, I think, at Committee of the Whole. And, you know, their agenda package, you know, they're what I noticed in there is, you know, their councillors will write up a short write-up of just, I was at this meeting and here are the main things we covered and that I want to convey, and that goes in. And I found that actually fairly useful and better than seeing any minutes of anything that I've seen. So now, as a group, what direction do we want to go? Counselor Mins,
Could I make a motion? Do we have a motion on?
Counselor Holland has one. I haven't repeated it. It on its own doesn't really stand on its own. Are you willing to smoke it? Okay.
Could I make a motion that states that for, I don't know if it's a certain timeline or if we want to go for a year, that all front pages of the agenda packages for the committees be placed on the county council agenda at the first or second meeting and just to put- chances are Leah's gonna get that agenda anyway.
She's shaking her head no.
Some of them, but not all.
Well, how hard is that? To say, hey, I do it periodically, that actually just about every month, I email administration and our admin support here that, you know, can you put and ask for the front page of the agenda to be put on in the manager's report. I don't see that being a big problem, just due to the fact that then, like I said, all of a sudden it just brings up, hey, what about this? Like, I've never seen anything on the doctor recruitment retention meetings. I haven't seen, there's been nothing. I haven't seen hardly anything on the multiplex. I know I can jump into the websites and look at that, but you know what, it'd be nice to see it on the agenda. Oh, no, verbal reports, but it's nice to see what
Would it
verbal
be,
reports.
would it be better, Counselor, to ask everybody to provide a brief written report then?
No,
No, you just want the agenda?
No, because sometimes you don't need to provide a verbal report sometimes, but just putting what you were discussing at that meeting, at that committee meeting, I don't see any problem with putting that front page on there to say we're exactly like this meeting. Call to
So-
order.
So Counselor Mins has made a motion that the main, the agenda page of committee meetings, of committee agendas be included in the council agenda, and that it be understood to exclude the agenda package.
Right.
Is that a,
Yeah, just a front page.
so that that the front pages of committee
Front page,
agendas be included in the council agenda? And that the direction is understood to exclude the committee agenda package. Counselor Holland?
I like the idea because of course it does explain the agenda, what is being discussed. I'm wondering though, if that's something up to each member of whatever committee and board that they're on, that they're able to send that to administration for them to add, rather than administration trying to figure it all out, that each counselor fire that out. I mean, you take that PDF, you just save it as one page and away you go. You don't have to send the whole PDF. So I do like the idea. Again, it's any information that we can get out there. I noticed, as you mentioned, the doctor recruitment, the town, you can access the minutes, but you have to ask the town. They don't have it on their website either. So it makes it really tricky. And those minutes, I don't know if anybody's really taken time to sit down and read those, but they're awesome. They explain so much, and our community really needs to read those and see what's going on there, because it's such an important thing on everybody's radar. When you move to a community, what are they doing for healthcare? So I just think that one in particular really needs to be bolstered, but I like your idea.
So the motion is to direct, that council wants to include all front pages of committee agendas, excluding the agenda package, in the county council agenda. Yep.
How do you,
The mechanics of doing it, I think, can be up
Yeah.
to them to sort out.
okay.
Whether they get the committee
Like, we
members
got
to
two
send it in.
people on a committee and we're all firing emails, the same emails to Leah. Like, it's gonna be a lot of emails.
They'll figure it
is all
out.
I'm
I think-
saying.
No, we don't.
Is there any other discussion to keep the meeting moving? Because I've heard already once, we don't like really long days. Hearing none on the question of the adoption of the motion to include front pages of the committee agendas in the county council agenda package. All those in favor? Opposed? Uh-oh. Okay, that's 4 and 5. That's defeated. Is there any other direction you want to provide to admin? Okay, so let's wrap up with 8.2. It's in order to receive a motion to authorize and direct administration to destroy the ballots for any elections that have occurred today and appointments to committees. Someone willing to move that? Councillor Gerlich. Councillor Gerlich has moved that we direct administration to destroy ballots for the election to committees. All those in favor? And the motion is adopted. The organizational meeting is adjourned. Shall we take 10 minutes?
Could I just ask
Oh.
one question kind of to do with organization?
Yeah, before we adjourn.
Okay, so we now have a committee for the ASB, and it has 3 members at large.
Yep.
And with the appointment, we had a 1-year appointment, 2-year appointment, 3-year appointment. So now after it's been in existence for the 1 year, first 1-year appointment has served 1 year. And so now they're suggesting that we go for another 1-year period.
Who's suggesting that?
That was what was suggested at the.
I think the terms are, I mean, as I remember them when they were set up, it was in order to get into a rolling 3-year. The first time period had a 1, 2, and a 3. And then the next time period after that, everything became a 3. So that there's a new member every year. But if the terms of reference aren't recorded that way, we should amend that immediately. Because the whole purpose of it was everybody was on a 3-year rotation, but you didn't want all 3 doing the same year.
So as a result of where it's going right now, next year 2 would be, there would be 2 openings.
I think that's a problem with the terms of reference. Let's look at bringing that to the November 14th council meeting for fixing.
It's been bugging me and I just didn't want to get lost.
Is everybody else okay with that? Okay, so we'll adjourn 10 minutes. Let's come back at 20 minutes before 11. I'd like to call the October 26th regular county council meeting to order. Only an hour and 10 minutes behind schedule. And worth every minute, of course. First item of business is the approval of the agenda. Are there, in terms of items, are items that must be discussed? Item number 4. I have item number 5.5 listed, 6.1, 7.1, 7.2, 8.1, 10. No, that's a no. And then all of number 11. Are there any additional items? Let's just go around the table. Councillor Mins.
Correct me if I'm wrong, do we not have to do 7.5?
Yes, I thought I said that out loud. I've highlighted it.
Oh, okay. Okay, did you? Okay.
I might not have said it out loud.
7.3
Okay,
and yeah, I guess that's
and no commit, okay. Councillor Holland, any to add?
this add-on.
Yes, that's, I marked that one already. I'll go through them all again, but that's definitely one we're gonna go to.
Okay.
Run through those again, please.
Sure. I had listed number 2, number 4, 5.5, 6.1, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.5, 8.1. And all of number 11.
Thank you.
Others, Councillor Holland? Okay, Councillor Chadwick.
Pretty much everything's on there.
Okay, no, we're gonna go around the table first. Councillor Wallach,
I'd like to add to the agenda, please,
Okay.
under 7.6
let's make it 9.1.
or K 9.1. The Northern and Regional Economic Development Grant
For discussion.
for discussion.
So that's 9.1, the Northern Region Economic Development Grant. And there's some time constraints around that, so I think that meets the criteria. And I think it's just discussion, right? Other items, Councillor Grillick, Councillor Anderson,
Thank you. I'd like to add 10.1I and 10.1X, please.
10.1I and 10.1X. Councillor Capitanic. Councillor Cromwell, anything to add? For discussion?
Thank you, no.
So the items for discussion are number 2, number 4, 5.5, 6.1, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.5, 8.1, 9.1, the Northern Regional Economic Development Grant discussion. 10.1I and 10.1 X and number 11. Councillor Chadwick has moved the adoption of the agenda. Are you still willing to move it given the changes? Okay. On the adoption of the agenda as amended, all those in favor? That's 9 and 0 and the motion is adopted. The delegation is scheduled for 11, so we've got a few minutes to move along to 5.5 elected officials remuneration policy. I'm not sure if anybody else had that on their list. I put that on because there's a couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention. I want to bring your attention for discussion. Before we adopt this, under page 39 of your agenda, which would be 6.2 part D, letter I. The first item says per diems are paid for attendance at the following MPC and SDAB. I think the words when a member should be included after that to clarify that us showing up as spectators doesn't qualify you for a payment. I believe the spirit of this was to pay when you're a member of those boards. Councillor Capitano.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we just pointed all of council to MPC, which would mean that we would not have members on the STB anymore?
We're building a policy though that endures beyond this one appointment, and we
Okay.
have 0 members of council at SDAB.
Okay,
So as written, it creates the opening, in my view, that's I'm floating to you, that if you show up as a spectator, you can claim a per diem.
oh, yeah.
So it's just to say,
Thank you.
you can claim for the meeting when you're a member, not when you're a visitor.
Okay. For members. Pending, okay.
Because I think, you know, and I know we've been through this, I want to say more times than I have fingers on one hand. But every time you read it, you kind of filter something out, so.
Yeah.
That's one. On page 40. In order to remain more internally consistent, and I'm not sure why I didn't think of this, or we all didn't, the meal, 6.4 part A double I. Would it be more reasonable to put the actual dollar values in Schedule A and to change the language of that paragraph to the councillor may claim an amount as listed on Schedule A and then put the actual dollars on Schedule A. So when we adjust things, it all reflects back to that schedule. I'm sorry. Well, it's in here. Yep. So it's just like the idea that this is in the middle of the document versus on the schedule where all the other dollars are included is inconsistent. And then we can, future councils can amend Schedule A and it's all in one schedule. And then the last one is kind of the same idea in two spots. We have trying to find it. So on page 43, exclusions part I, in the event an official receives remuneration from an external board or committee, the elected official should not be paid by the county. I've gone through the process thinking the intent was actually that the external board would pay the county and the councillors would take the county per diem. And that avoids the situation where if we have boards that either pay more or less than the county, there's not, you know, jockeying to get on or off, that every time every council goes to a meeting, they get a uniform rate of pay. So that if committee X pays a per diem that's separate from the county, but imagine that it's significantly different than the county one because it's managed somewhere else. The way the policy reads is if you're paid it by the other board, you don't get the county one, which means you're not paid equitably. And a lot of the stuff we've done in this policy is to try to create more equity across council. So for me, it's more saying, you know, we should be directing that external board to pay it to the county and the councillor would take the cash out of that. Councillor Hall.
Thanks very much. I was just curious what happens if it's, they pay the county more than what the per diem is.
Then the councillor, in my view, should get the county rate. Because otherwise, if I figure out you've got a committee that pays more, say pays double the county rate.
Yep.
I might take a really keen interest in trails.
No, I understand, but what happens if they're paying the county? Does that then come through to the counselor, that extra? Okay, so where does it go?
County. We have a bank.
The
account.
coffers.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's-
Okay.
Yeah, so that's under part G, and there's another reference to that somewhere else that I can't. Page 39, part D, XI or 11. Per diems are paid by an external organization. No per diems are paid by the official to Athabasca County. So it referenced in those 2 points. And so I think from our discussions, my thought is it's not your intention to create that situation. That the intention is to have the per diems go to the county and the county councillors get paid the county per diem. So those are the 3 things I are for. I can't picked up that I thought you might want to consider. Part D, XI, 11. CAO.
Mr. Chairman, could we clarify the wording that we would like to change on that section?
Yeah, if you want to pass it today, we should clarify the wording. If you want to pick it forward to the next meeting to have admin come up with the wording. So what if XI just said if per diems are paid by external organizations, they should be directed to the county. Yeah.
So
If per diems are paid by, sorry, if I may, it'll read if per diems are paid by external no, per diems are paid by external organizations to Athabasca County, period. No per diems will be paid to the elected official by Athabasca County, but we have to scrap that, right?
So you're on page 39, right?
Yep.
If per diems are paid by external organizations, they should be directed to Athabasca County. Delete the words, no per diems will be paid to
Okay.
the elected official.
Yep.
Is that
Yep.
sufficiently clear from an administrative point of view, CAO? Is the rest of council on track with an amendment like that? Does everybody, are we all okay with part DI, the adding the 3 words when a member? Would there be any objection to that? Councillor Anderson?
When acting as an appointed member.
So to add the words when acting as an appointed member? Leo, you're good. Part 6.4. Change the wording, amount as listed. Strike the word below and choose on Schedule A. And then move the 4 lines that say meals, breakfast, lunch, and supper. And I would put meals, bracket inclusive of gratuity. Move that to Schedule A. Does that seem, is there any objection to that? Okay, and then the final one was that on page 43, part G, letter number 1 or letter I. In the event they receive remuneration from an external board or committee, the elected officials attendance on behalf. The elected official shall, I don't know what the language should be, shall pay that to the county. So if you get money from a board, you should pay it into the county because you're going to collect a county per diem. Councilor Mintz.
Okay, so if I understand, like, I know on my Alice committee, whenever I go to a meeting. They want all that information. They want the mileage, they want per diem and all that, so they can put it into their budget
Mhm.
also, and it shows. Right now, it shows in kind that I'm donating that per diem and everything to them, right?
And I think that that's if they choose to not pay it to the counties, I think the key is that we're not in a position where councillors can double dip.
Yeah.
But also not in a position where if Alice's rate is lower than the county rate, you're forced to take Alice's rate.
Okay.
Well, that's how it, I mean, so it says, in the event you receive remuneration from them, so Greater North does the same thing. I don't know that they actually ever write a check to the county, because at the very beginning, I said, I'm like, county councillors are on a flat rate, and my attendance here is, if I travel in the county car, and that's covered, and if I show up, it's in our base already, so I don't know that they write a check, but they still do it in the budget, so they can say our
Yeah.
meetings in theory cost us this much. And I think waste is probably the same.
I think so, yeah.
I think he
Yeah.
keeps track of that. Councilor Cromwell.
To administration through the chair. D, part 4.
Just, sorry, can we finish this one thought before you jump onto a new one? That'd be, so we're on track. So part G, letter I, do we want to? Should we change the language just to shall not be paid a per diem by the county, but shall direct the funds to the county or something like that? Councilor Anderson.
From the comment, from the comma where it says the elected official shall not be paid a per diem by the county. I'd recommend that we amend that portion of the sentence to say the fund shall be directed to the county.
So that's on the 3rd line down, adding the fund shall be directed to the county. So-
If I may massage.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
on that one. And
Instead
then
of using funds, can we use the per diem so there's no confusion?
it's just mileage too.
Thank you. I've never been paid by a committee, so I don't know.
So is everybody sort of in agreement with that particular item? Councillor Cromwell, you had on what page are you at?
Page 39. Pardon me, D, part IV, part 4. And maybe I'm just confused myself here. Meetings with other governments and government agencies outside of council or committee of the whole meeting days, including joint council meetings. We have or committee of the whole meeting days, yet committee of the whole is also referenced under our basic BI or B1. I see that as a contradiction.
No, meetings with other governments or government agencies. So you'll be paid to go say meet with the MLA
Right.
as long as it's not at
But-
council or committee.
Or committee of the whole meeting days.
I think it needs a comma.
So what it means is, the way I interpret that is if you're meeting. I don't know, say we're called to present at town council or somewhere like that. And it was not on a council or committee the whole meeting day.
I think it needs a comma after agencies and it will read better.
It still doesn't make sense to me, but
It's saying that if you meet with in like how government meetings in the ministry, as long as they haven't come here to council. Or committee of the whole,
So add a comma after.
but including them.
Does everybody kind of, that makes
Okay.
sense?
that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, but okay, so like if they came here, yeah. But over there.
So you're, Councillor Cromwell, you're comfortable
I am much more
with the
confident
comma?
with the comma. That makes much better sense.
Which.
Okay. Good. Councillor Anderson, other thoughts? Oh, sure. Councillor Anderson would like to move a motion.
No. To rescind policy 2010, council remuneration, and further to adopt policy 2009, elected officials remuneration and expenses as amended, effective January 1st, 2024.
Councillor Anderson has moved to rescind policy 2010, council remuneration, and further to adopt policy 2009, elected officials remuneration and expenses as amended, effective January 1st, 2024. Discussion on the motion. It's been a long time getting here. All those in, yeah, on the question of the adoption of the motion, all those in favor? It is 9-0. Motion is adopted. Is our delegation here? Oh, okay. Let's take 30 seconds. I'll grab a glass of water and we'll invite delegation in. That was a long process, folks. Take pride in having taken the time to get it as close to right as we can.
Oh.
Someone want a glass of water and we'll invite? Welcome, Laurie. It's nice to have you here. Our normal practice at the county is we'll introduce the council. And then we're on the table. So when it gets to you, you can introduce yourself and the floor is yours. But thanks for taking the time to join us and share these ideas. On your right, we have our CAO, Mr. Bob Beck, recording secretary, Ms. Blair, communications and tech wizard, Mr. Schenkelberg, and Councilor Mins.
Rob Mins, Division 8, Baptiste Lake Island Lake area.
Good morning, and I'm Tracy Holland. Thank you for being here and welcome. I represent Division 5, which is east of Athabasca, so Jackfish Packs and Amber Valley areas.
Welcome, Kelly Chamzik, Division 7, Grassland, Atmore, Crossvita areas.
Good morning, Camille Wallach, Division 9, north of the river.
You know me.
Good morning. Good morning, Joe Gerlach, elected in Division 1, which is the Rochester Perryville area in the southern part of the county.
Good morning, Ashton Anderson. I reside in the east side of the county in the Castle Boyle area.
Division 2, Collington, New Pine Creek and Minnook.
Good morning, Gary Cromwell. Division 6, the far north, Wandering River, Brainerd, Blue Jay area. Thank you for being here.
So the one thing, because our meetings are live streamed and recorded, we'll have to get you to push the button on the microphone to speak, and then the floor is yours. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, Reeve Hall and counselors. It's nice to meet you all today and be greeted by you all. My package has been in with your council package. So I'll just kind of jump in and give you some highlights there. Basically, I'm a citizen of the community. I live here, and I had an idea. So that's why I'm here. I was at town council last week and they advised that maybe I come and see you and talk about this idea as well. So basically it's a proposal to invest in a professional position that basically keeps our community tended to, vibrant, and appealing to those who already live here. And also to benefit those who might be interested in living here or just passing through. The idea came from a convergence of moments. I'm also a member of the Athabasca Northern Nordic Ski Club, ski and mountain bike club. We're talking at the moment, maybe you've heard about enhancing the trails that we have in the Muskeg Creek. So it was in one of those meetings where we were talking about adding mountain bike trails to those trails, where we were talking about who else is in the community, who else uses the trails, who else raises money literally for enhancements in our community, and how do we access them? And we were all kind of like, people who have kids, maybe who are in other groups or people who are in service clubs. But in that moment, we were all kind of wondering who else does this sort of work in our community. And to be honest, that was right around the time that AU was getting a lot of press, you might remember a couple of years ago, about dispersing the workplace and not having people live here. So that felt, a tiny bit personal. Why would people be leaving our community? But also, it felt a little bit unstable. And also knowing that people can live and work anywhere, why wouldn't we be encouraging them to come and live and work here? So why wouldn't we strategize to build or support the package of attractions that we have here within this community? And by community, I do mean the surrounding areas as well, people who use Athabasca for their primary services, but might live in the county and outlying areas. I don't need to tell you, but I will. We have more affordable real estate than the cities. Look around us. I just looked out your window here. I think you've got the most beautiful view in town of the river. Our natural attractions. One couldn't build that if one were building a community. We have a collection of societies, clubs, programs, and services here that some maybe are unique, like the snowmobile club and like the hunting club, like our ski club. Our trails are incredible out here. So why wouldn't we start to think about that and start to enhance that to both give back to people who live in the community and literally tell them what we're doing, because I think sometimes we don't even know, and also to attract people from outside who might want to come live here. So that said, this position is looking toward growth in quality of life. So also growth, which I know is something that the Regional Economic Development Committee works at, but kind of a different angle. I see the economic development position as being one of potentially quantitative growth. How do we build? How do our businesses make more money? How do we get more people into our community? We look to jobs to draw people here, but what about the rest of their lives? So if someone were choosing between a job in, say, who knows, Drayton Valley, Smoky Lake, and a job here, why would they choose us? I think we all know why, but how do we present that in a way that both keeps people here, but also attracts people here? I guess I'm asking you to consider the possibility of having one person on staff, and maybe that's joint staff, maybe that's a town county kind of position that's in charge of all things social, recreational, and community-based. So they'd be tasked with, at the very least, knowing which societies and clubs and services operate within the district and when they run events. Running alongside that, we've heard, and maybe I'm looking at you around the room, that our volunteers are tired. Our volunteers are aging. An idea with this sort of position is that maybe it can sort of save volunteers some of their steps. Maybe it can also be a role that starts to recruit volunteers or see synergies among what volunteers are doing, say in one club or service group and another, and start to bridge that. Maybe there's communication across the groups that can happen because of a centralized position like this one. Also provide training such as the dreaded treasurer position. Most groups have, you dance around the idea of who's going to take this job, and it's, someone will step forward, but maybe it's not the person who's most interested. So possibly, who knows, a position like this could look to the groups and maybe identify people who are really good at it, who love that treasurer position and can do it for a couple of groups, something like a very specific example like that. And also kind of just telling us what's going on. I mean, because we all live here, we know a few things that are going on, but I reside in the town, and sometimes, I hear about what happened at Elscott Hall like a month later, and I've missed it. Or, the Forfar dinner, if we'd planned better, maybe I could have made it. But we know a few things about what's happening here. But even as someone who's lived here for 24 years, I miss tons. And so what about newcomers? What about people who've been here for 6 months? How do they find out what's going on? Particularly if they don't have children. If you've got kids, maybe you hear about what's happening, dance society, hockey, that sort of thing. But if you don't, it's a little bit harder to reach that sort of thing. So maybe this position is someone who can be on top of that. I see this position as someone that would have a grand vision about how we want to experience this community, and also work with what already exists here. So we have tons of clubs, societies, service groups that are already existing. This isn't someone who would be then, appointing what happens, as far as clubs go. And I'm also imagining that it's not necessarily reporting to the multiplex and arms group. I see it as broader reaching than that. I think there's a kind of sense that what happens at the multiplex is very sporty, even though that's where our community center ended up, becoming the field house, right? So I see something a little bit broader, and someone who's maybe tasked with attending board meetings, locating the right people to talk to in order to find out what's happening, and calling congregational meetings where members of each society, club, association, and other group are invited to attend and share, like really sharing knowledge, and also sharing like, hey, we've got this thing going on. Does anybody want to maybe partner and do this together? So that we maybe don't have weekends where it's the cheer competition and horn scoring at the same time. Maybe that's a great idea. Maybe it's something where families can come together and do both, but maybe it's actually detracting from what's happening because you've got a split in people who can't really do both. Outreach could include providing instructional seminars for the groups, and how to run an efficient meeting, that sort of thing. So other proactive potential goals could include planning community and regional events, or consulting on the ones that currently happen, like River Rats, all volunteers. Maybe we want to do a little bit more with that, or maybe they're looking for support. I don't know, but it's one big draw kind of event that happens in our community. Maybe this person actively seeks conferences and working out how to hold them here. We know how to do it because we live here, right? You rent a couple of halls, you talk to people at the churches, get some church basements, you find out when shutdown happens at Alpac and don't decide to do it then because that all the hotels are booked. Maybe it's a sort of conference that lends itself to billeting, people have good experiences at that. So just one more idea of what could possibly happen. And also being on top of trends and communicating. we look to the paper that supports us with, talking about what events are happening. If you want to know what's going on, maybe you go to Facebook, maybe you don't, because you see that people ask a question and, fighting happens, or you're not on Facebook. So being on top of that and letting people know, finding those ways, I don't know what they are. And also working in conjunction with the new county regional economic development position. I see them as potentially being two roles that could work together on what's happening in community and what's asking to be kind of supported or built in the community. So basically, I'm here just to ask you to hold a little sunshine on this idea as you're going through budget talks and planning and so on. I know that there are other draws for our dollars. And I've got to say, when we have visitors coming to the community, weather like this and into the winter, people always comment on how well the roads are graded. And that is also something very real. I'm not making this up. Yeah, so I know that you're thinking about a lot of things here, and that this is potentially.
They don't tell
something-
us that.
They don't tell you. I'm telling you. Yeah, it's happened more than once. So basically, this is a skilled position. This is actually a career position. And in the document that I sent, I've listed a few of the places where people go to study this, how to do this. Might be called a rec coordinator, might be called a community coordinator. And some of the regions where I've just kind of like lighted on of where people do this and do it well. St. Albert, their recreational, I don't know what they call it, rec services website. They literally has a button that you press that says, what can I do here today? You press it and you see everything that happens that day. So for folks who live here, I know tons of people travel from here to St. Albert to do stuff. Maybe it's shopping, maybe it's hanging out. That's where you go to find out, okay, this is what's happening. I mean, we could do something similar. Somebody wants to leave the city for an afternoon, a day, a weekend. They press on, what's happening here and find out. So how to kind of like talk about and maybe brag about what we do in our community, both for people who live here and for people who don't live here yet. So I'm asking you to look at the document and beyond for job descriptions and kind of performance and programs that teach the skills, and to consider how this might fit with your vision and cooperation with the town. So I understand that it's a little bit harder to put numbers on, and we could potentially do that, numbers about what well-being and wellness does for individuals, families, and communities, and how that maybe fits with how we vision growth as seen in the intermunicipal development plan and in other plans about how we view growth in our community. So this role is looking to growth in a sort of expansive well-being, literally keep people here kind of way. And that's all I have for presentation. I'm ready for questions if anyone has any.
We usually do. Thank you.
Mhm.
I think we've talked at our table in the past about health equity and community well-being, community sustainability. And so I'm suspecting there'll be some questions around the table. I appreciate your comments though, and you coming here. Does anybody have questions they want to open up with? I'm looking at Councillor Holland because
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. Thank you very much for bringing this forward. I love your vision and I love where you're thinking and where you'd like to see this go. I know the Economic Development Committee is working very hard at getting some of those things out. And all I could think about when you mentioned that button was we need an app. We need an app, right? And so I really like what you brought to us today and gives us a lot of food for thought. And it would be a partnership, of course, with municipalities is something else that I could see. I know Councillor Mins mentioned that earlier, that this would be something that we would want to work with all our neighbor municipalities at. So thank you very much for bringing this forward. I really like what you've got to say.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks, Councillor Holland.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I really love the idea. I love how, as somebody who's worked with different societies and whatnot in our community, it's hard to reach out and to create those bonds with other groups to make sure that we can have that open line of communication. I found your proposal to be very focused on the Athabasca area and still sound like a full-time job. Do you think that one person would be able to fulfill the role region-wide? Or would we eventually have to start with one and then expand this idea as time went on to serve our entire region?
Mhm. Thanks, Councillor Anderson. I believe it would be a growth sort of position. Potentially to avoid overwhelm, I think starting just within the core of, say, Athabasca town and near surrounding area might be a good start. But I couldn't see why someone in this position wouldn't be able to find out what's happening, say, you know, like in Boyle, it seems like an easy reach. And the nearer kind of communities, you know, what's happening in Rochester, and also partnering with our neighboring communities, you know, what's happening in Westlock and Lac La Biche and Calling Lake, you know, maybe these are partnership type jobs. But your point is taken, and as if you've got a moment to look through to see what, say, like Drayton Valley is doing, they're not so different in size when we take in the scope of our larger county. They've got a team. I don't know exactly how many people, but they've got a team of people working on recreation and community, and they also seem to be doing it really well. When you go to their website, it's easy to see right away how they're partnering with seniors, with youth, with the clubs and services in the community, and with FCSS. They really have a wellness kind of focus. And for those of you who've been around for a little while, the former recreation coordinator in Athabasca is the one who's been leading it. Yeah. So she's doing a great job. So if you can, you know, take a look over there and see what they're doing, I think it'll start with one person. And I think if this is an idea that we want to support, it will potentially grow. Mhm.
Councillor Wallach and then Councillor Chancer.
Yes, I've actually experienced the Drayton Valley stuff, and they've done really well. We laughed at your the treasurer's comment because we literally were talking about this morning with our groups, and there is a lot of opportunity to collaborate with other societies and whatnot. But I think it's just having that center person to move forward. So I like the idea. I think it would be a great benefit for the community.
Thanks, Councillor Waller.
Councillor Champion.
Some of the comments I had to echo Councillor Anderson's, wondering if it would be attainable to reach those outlining areas. I commend the idea on working on recruitment with volunteers, which leads into those treasurer positions in our service clubs. And with our outlining service clubs, like there is so many of them, do you think it would be overtaxing on one position?
Good question. Thanks, Councillor Johnson. I believe that this role is more of a facilitator type role, and potentially a role of discovery. So initially, I would think that someone in this role would be looking to see what is and how does it work, and potentially in those moments, maybe flags of where maybe it's not working so great and being able to assist that. But I couldn't see this position, say, taking over the administration of, you know, societies or clubs, or, you know, I wouldn't see them walking in and saying, oh, Ag Society, I want to run you. I think it would be more like, yeah, yeah, it would be more, what have you got going on? How can I support you? And then how can I kind of like bring together what you're already doing and tell people about it, so that I could see another link back to communications, how that's working, but literally hearing from what already exists from the societies and clubs and groups that already exist, hearing from them and seeing where maybe synergies can be met or where support can be offered. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. You know, and I think we've all experienced that, where we see all the groups that help make community in their own silos, doing their own thing, and finding a way to help avoid some duplication and provide some support and make it not so scary to take on a role like, you know, the treasurer or the casino coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Could be really beneficial, and you know, one of our roles is enhancing the livability of our region and community sustainability, and we do that through various ways. And this is you've presented another really good idea for us to look at and consider. So our process is council discusses it more in, discusses the presentations of delegations more in depth later in the meeting. Sometimes we'll defer them to administration to go gather some information and bring back to a subsequent meeting. So this is on the agenda later this morning or
Okay.
probably after lunch. And it'll come back up again. So
Okay,
thank you for being here today.
you're welcome and thank you
Appreciate
for your time.
Chair, can we take a quick 5, please?
Let's break till 11:30. 7 minutes. We are, I'd like to reconvene the meeting of October 26th. It is 11:30. The next item of business is 6.1. Which is on page 51 of your agenda. There is a motion, recommendation from administration for to take this to first reading. Is anyone willing to move first reading? Councillor Cromwell has moved first reading of bylaw 012-2023. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, on the adoption of the motion to approve first reading of bylaw 012-2023, all those in favor? Motion is adopted. Folks, before I call for a second motion, I wanted to present an idea to you that is to suggest that we should on something as new and as this bylaw, do first reading today and postpone second reading even to the next meeting, so that we can take time to have community reaction and input, and then we can address it as necessary, and that gives us 2 more readings to modify it if we choose. The disadvantage of doing 2 readings right now is we've got 1 chance to make amendments at the end, or strike it down altogether. So unless someone is going to propose second reading, I'm prepared to just move on to the next item. Councillor Cromwell. Okay, check mark beside that. Next item of business is 7.
Mr. Reeves, sorry,
Sorry?
do we not need a motion to table that to the following meeting?
I don't think so,
For
no.
procedurally, that way it's not falling off the radar, so be it.
It doesn't fall off. CAO, do you have any advice on that?
I was thinking the same thing, I
Okay.
gotta be honest, that
So
it'd
Councillor
be
Cromwell, you wanna
clear
make
if
a
you're,
motion to table
if
second.
there actually
table
is a
to the next
motion to table, and otherwise, if someone's only reading the minutes, they don't know why we didn't move on, so.
Okay.
Motion to table to the next scheduled county council meeting.
Tabling motions are non-debatable, and the motion to table is to the November 14th county council meeting. All those in favor? That motion is adopted 9-0. Thank you, Councillor Cromwell. Good procedural catch. 7.1 is the next item. There's a recommended motion. Is anybody prepared to make the recommended motion or bring up discussion? Councillor Holland, your hand was up. Councillor Holland has moved to revise some meal reimbursement rates in the policy 2011 to 20 for breakfast, 25 for lunch, 30 for supper, and to approve policy 2011 as presented in the agenda package or with the amendments to the agenda package. Discussion. Councillor Cromwell or Councillor Anderson, your hand was up.
Thank you. Similar to our new elected officials remuneration policy, I think we should forward this policy to our policy review to create one policy that outlines how members at large and members of administration are to be paid or reimbursed for all of their expenses, whether it be travel, meals, etc. Just piecemealing these together really makes no sense at this point anymore.
Other discussion? So you're before we take a motion from you, because a motion to refer is a motion to refer can happen over top of a existing motion. But it's a non-debatable motion. So is there any other discussion that you want? I'm going to add that I actually, when I read this, I felt similarly that we're correcting some stuff in this that needs to be corrected because of the adoption of the other policy, but I just personally also wonder if we couldn't create sort of go through it and decide how we're dealing with members at large and administration and their mileage and travel and just make something a little more comprehensive and clear rather than just, touching up. Let's look at repainting the whole thing. So Councillor Anderson, you're making a motion to refer this to policy?
Well, and just to clarify, the rates were already adopted during our org meeting. So
So we've got that.
by forwarding this on, we're not sticking to the lower rates. We've already amended that portion of it today. We're really just dealing with the policy amendment at this point, to
And you said to policy committee?
the policy review committee is.
So. Councillor Holland?
Just for clarity, the rates that we passed today, did that not only impact council or that?
No. That impacts,
Everybody?
it's your meeting, that impacts everything.
Everybody? Okay, thank you. Just for clarity. Thank you. I appreciate
So
that.
Councillor Anderson has made a motion to refer this to the Policy Review Committee. A referral motion can happen when there's another question of consideration. It's a simple majority and it's a non-debatable motion. On the motion to refer to Policy Review, all those in favor? That is adopted 9-0, and the other motion is stalled. I don't know what happens to it, but it's gone. Operating and capital statement, Director Chernichen has provided a handout. Because this one. Is there anyone willing to move the recommended motion to open discussion? Councillor Chamsic has moved the motion to accept the operating and capital statements as information, discussion, and I'm sure questions. Okay, I have Councillor Minns, you want to start with questions? I know you've got them.
Yeah, I got a question here just regarding the in the printout here about the water supply and the wastewater service. Why don't we have the numbers there? Why don't we have the numbers that were put into the budget on April 18th there with under budget net and then the actual cost? What do we have? Any
So
numbers?
the plan in the budget is to move any surplus or deficit in, or not deficit, but to transfer the surplus to reserves. So when we created the budget, that was used to balance it out to zero. So if we had a year where we were under, a year where we were over, it's always going to balance out to zero from that transfer from reserves. Because remember when we did the budget, we looked at 7 years because we have such a small number of utility customers. We looked at a larger span of years to get a larger population to calculate those rates. So the budget is always going to balance out to zero because of the transfer in or out of reserves.
So the budgeting is, we basically budgeted for break even is.
Exactly.
That, so which would be why we are at zero on the very left column, because we budgeted.
To break even.
So that the income from that and the expense going out, the budget for them is zero. Or to match them.
Well, we don't see no numbers move. That's what I just don't understand. We don't see like how much we're paying for water, how much we're getting for water, how much it's costing us to, all we're getting is one final number that to me, it just. It's
You
not
want
showing nothing.
breakdown
It's
of the
like, we're.
142.
I don't know, I don't like the way we're doing this. I really don't, because we're not actually comparing apples to apples here. We're given nothing. Like, so what are we at? 142,000 in the positive?
Yes. So there are some items, some larger capital projects that will come from that. And that haven't been completed yet. But yes, currently, or not currently, but at September 30th, we were at 142,000.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way to change that or.
I think, I mean, probably it's in how we do budget reporting and so I think what Councillor Minns is asking for is a more detailed breakdown of the. What comprises, this is a consolidated budget in the way I look at it, like it wraps up all these things into a single line. We don't get the category breakdowns and I think I'm hearing you say is you'd like just a little bit more detail in how we get to the consolidation.
Yeah, like.
So we can change the way the recording is done. Keeping in mind that the more detail that goes into the report, the longer it takes to generate those reports. So are you looking for, you want to see revenue and expenses? As, like, I guess I will work to provide the information council is looking for. I just
Well,
need,
Well, I guess, yeah, it's like every other line we have going down here, we see what we're reporting what's in the budget, but and then we report if we're positive or negative, right? So even if we could, like, I know $907,450 was put into the was on the budget on April 18th. So I just don't understand why that 907,000 isn't wrote there. Like that's what it costs us to do water, right?
I think the decision of council in the last 2 years, and the director should provide advice on this, but was to have the water utility to a break-even point. So at one point, water was subsidized out of general revenue, and now it's self-contained. So the budget number is actually the water in the end cost zero. And there's some adjusting that happens where, you know, the revenue coming in is growing a little bit faster right now than the expenses going out, but the reporting on the first 2 pages said there's money to spend. So there's projects that will cost us money that we just haven't spent it out. So by the end of the year, I would expect that would be much closer to zero. And
yes,
if it's not right at zero, the instructions to transfer the difference into reserves. Because we're trying to have water is its own self-contained bubble. It should always be a zero on here. Based on the direction of council.
Yeah. I guess when will we be seeing those numbers that of the breakdown of what all this stuff is costing us? Like even down into common services to road construction and maintenance and that, you know, like we got $13 million budgeted, we've spent 9 million, but we don't know what we spent 9 million on. Is there's that's not
that's
all of
the
it.
capital.
That's just
in the-
capital stuff.
That's over here too.
That's not everything that we've spent money on. It's, I guess. I'm just looking at a more, when are we gonna see a more condensed
Less
budget
condensed.
or information brought back to council, like at the end of the year? Or are we gonna see it quarterly or how?
CAO and or CO and director, do you have I think, I mean, historically, the background that I think, and council will correct me, but my impression of our and this is without comment on the performance of the director, it's, you know, the reporting has been fairly high level that's come to the council table, and some of that, you know, I think we're hoping that we can get a little bit more detailed, have a better understanding of what's there. Follow up from the CIO director, and then we've got Councillor Chamzik on deck and Councillor
Yep.
Paul
Thanks.
next when Mins is finished.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So this is my 3rd week and I love this discussion. So like I'm hearing, and actually, Director Chernchan and I just yesterday had a good discussion about budget and reporting. That was our first discussion. So maybe I'm not as used to the level of detail maybe I'm used to a little bit more too. And so I think this is an item it's good for discussion between the budget documents and whether it's quarterly reporting or monthly reporting. Yeah, I think it's on the radar. And it would be really good if anyone who picked up the monthly report could kind of understand it without having the director sit in front of them. And we're not there yet. We're a long ways from that. The good news is we made a great hire of a finance manager. So we've got a second person to help us with some of this stuff. So maybe in that area, there's room for some changes. I'll just leave it at that, Mr. Chairman.
And we know, I mean, I think council, I mean, again, I hope it's fair to say from my half my colleagues, we all understand kind of what you're starting with. I mean, budgeting on the software and the system and the changes that are coming. I mean, we know it takes time, and Counselor Mins, do you have other questions on your list?
No, I want to just thank you very much for that and sounds great. At least it's on radar and that's what I wanted to. I actually wanted to hear that.
Budget's our biggest thing, right? We should.
Exactly.
Had Counselor Chamzik on deck, then Counselor Holland.
Just a little clarification with library, is that because those payments have already been out for being at 100% there?
Yep.
Okay,
That's exactly it.
thank you.
Counselor Holland.
Thank you. I'm also concerned about community transportation being at 99%. Is, do you have a bit more? I noticed there was some write-ups, but I didn't see community transportation there. To kind of get an idea on what's happening.
So the costs of community transportation are driven by the usage. So when usage is higher than anticipated, or those trips are further than anticipated, when we did the budget, we don't deny. Sorry, we're not picking you up. We're at 100% of our budget.
Shut the vans off for 3 months.
Done.
Sorry, try again next year.
Yeah.
Like, we continue to provide that service and we do our best to budget based on historical and the rates that the change in rates. But if the usage is higher or the trips are further, then we're gonna reach that budget before the end of the year.
So this is something that we can look at further, because I would imagine coming out of COVID as well, there's a lot more going on. So thank you.
Yeah, and with the years of COVID, you didn't have the same the ability to look at those statistics.
Thank you so much.
Okay, coming around the table, Counselor Wallach, any questions on these? Oh, Counselor Gerlach,
Yeah,
put your microphone on, please.
on cemeteries here, it says that the budget is 43,000 and 3,900 spent, and it's a -9. That should be just 9%.
No, so with the cemeteries, we sold more plots than we anticipated we would sell. And the costs for doing the mowing of the cemeteries aren't in yet. So those internal costs that would be in regarding cemetery mowing over the summer have to be input. There's a lag between when the work is done and when the information gets into our system.
So how do you come up with a -9?
So we sold more plots than we budgeted for. And the expenses related to mowing aren't included in that 3,900.
So the expenses aren't all recorded, but the revenue is.
Yeah.
Okay,
And a -9 on expenses works out to a.
got it.
Cemeteries are a profitable business so far.
It's a big undertaking.
Counselor Anderson.
Thank you. I really appreciate the information that was included in the administration report. The written portion of this is great information to have. I really appreciate the director taking the time to highlight the different items that are maybe varying from budget or places where we've made more money, like on interest, than we had expected. But I too echo that the financial state or the operating statement and capital statement just don't provide the kind of information I was hoping to see. So unfortunately, I don't have a real recommendation on how to improve it, but thank you for doing the written portions.
Counselor Capitano, do you have any follow-up questions?
I just wanted to clarify that, as you mentioned, the mowing, for the cemeteries has not been submitted yet. In that budget, is that our 4 county cemeteries?
Yes,
And then all the other cemeteries we do comes out of the Ag Services budget?
I'd have to look.
Because we have all those other cemeteries that we kind of just do. Remember, we talked about like just happens. And I just want to clarify that our budget is. It is just our 4 cemeteries. But thank you, and no rush on that, just a question.
I think the comments have been made. I agree. I need to see more information. I need to see more numbers. Budget is our life. And though I very much appreciate what you have on here, I think I hope we can find a way to increase the information that we're getting. It's vital to everything that we do. But I very much do appreciate something to look at today. So thank you for that.
Counselor Wallach, follow up?
I think maybe there's a different report that we might be looking at, I'm guessing, because a statement is just the basics, right? But there's another document that we probably should be requesting, not just a statement. Is that kind of
More
like
detail.
what I'm getting at, like maybe a total expense report, or like, I don't know, like what we're looking for, but a statement is just the basics of what we're spending. So I think maybe there's another report that we probably should be asking for, not just an operating statement.
And one of the interesting things that came out of the, which again, if you're able to take it still, the corporate planning and finance, COEP, they talked about the different styles of municipal reporting, and some of them are by sort of expense category, and some of them more by objects. So you do it more by enterprise and say, you know, the cemeteries are the equivalent of a business unit, and you do the in and out of that and break it all down. And so there's, you know, there's different ways to look at what we get, and what we get is, you know, more of a consolidated version. And I think it seems like you have an idea what council wants in terms of more information. The two questions I had, enforcement services, maybe more than two, but enforcement services looks like it's $190,000 under budget. Is that? Did I miss a comment on why that was? It's under budget. Okay, test time. Okay,
Sorry, I'm just,
yep, I apologize. Council Wallach has pointed out that that's probably covered in that thing.
so were you talking about the revenue for enforcement services or?
I mean, just like we expected to be an $80,000 law, you know, expect loss or negative right there, and we're at 111 positive. So when the gap between those is $190,000, I think.
So that's our Highway 63 road rescue.
Okay,
And it's to do with the receipt of the grant
Timing.
coming in and when we spend the expenses. So we received the grant. At the end of the year, there'll be an adjustment to move some of that money to next year, but that money right now is all sitting in this year's budget.
so this isn't really an accrual statement then? Sort of is, or?
So there are some accruals that we do at the end of the year versus doing on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And so the grants are one of them.
Okay. So at the bottom, it looks like we have an operating surplus of $9 million, which I think Cole don't write down. We don't have any, like out of that, council had allocated significant reserve contributions. Those have not been.
Those are
It's
not
not a-
recorded till the end of the year as well.
Okay,
As well, out of this amount would come our capital expenses.
okay. So
So I can, when we're modifying the report format, I can work to include that information in there.
so that it creates a little bit more accurate picture of where we really are. There's a bridge on the capital budget. Bridge rehabilitation, we're at $1,900 on a $540,000 budget. Can you just help us understand what, you know, given that we're at almost November? We've spent nothing out of a $500,000 budget.
You're looking at the road structures with the specific bridge files, is that where you're looking? So
Yeah, the bridge rehabilitation on the second line of the capital statement.
So my understanding is that work has started and we're just waiting for the cost to flow through.
And okay, and then on the bridge replacements at the bottom, is that the same? Because
Yeah.
again, we've got a lot of, you know, STIP funding and stuff in place, and we're at sort of $2,000 or on most of it.
Yeah, and it's the same.
It's just a timing issue.
The timing, yep.
But and forgive me, that's just, it's confusing. There can be such a lag for me that between when we're doing the work and when we're getting it in the system. Other questions from council? There's a motion made to accept the operating and capital statements as information. On the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? It is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. We are at 5 minutes before 12. Why don't we tackle 7.3 and then see how we're doing? 7.3 is the Counselor Mins, you put that on the agenda. Did you have a motion you wanted to move or a comment you wanted to make? Preferably a motion first. and then-
Yeah, I'll move the recommended motion to. The only thing I'm wondering, the only question I have is that in the. Where it was mentioned that this was like the budget item was missed. Being brought forward.
So what we have been able to figure out through the chair to Councillor Mins is that it was pushed from the 2022 budget to go into the 2023 budget, but when the 2023 budget was approved, the amount was not listed in the agenda or in your budget, so therefore the monies were never approved. So this would be retroactively changing the budget you're currently working in and taking the money from reserves so that we can order the pump.
But on the our August or April 18th, 23 budget, there was $48,000 sitting there for a new pump.
From what we found in your final approved budget, that number was not in there,
That number wasn't in there?
wasn't in there. Was a blank space.
We approved the budget on January 20 something. Our budget approval occurred in mid to early January. I can't remember the date.
Then how did the April 18th budget
I'm not sure what document you're talking about.
under the budgets? Under the budgets, April 18th, 2023.
Is this on the website?
Yeah, on the
Was that just when
website
they posted it?
shows $48,000 sitting there for a new water pump. For grassland truck fill.
I don't. That's a question for the admin team. I'm not sure, Councilor.
We're going to have to go back. Sorry, the budget copy that I have that was approved doesn't have it listed in it. And
Okay.
so we can take it back and look, but
In the interim, while we seek to clarify that, probably the path of keeping things moving is to still
Oh, yeah.
authorize
need
this
it.
purchase.
Yeah, I was just wondering why all of a sudden it was said that it wasn't there, and yet I can bring it up on April 18th budget. and
Is it 22 though, or 23?
23.
So could that be the timing when we finally got our last, the assessment and the tax calculations in? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
we can look
but
into it.
You know what?
Yeah,
Boom, let's get her done.
I-
No, it's under. what-
Okay, so on the question of the adoption of a motion to order a pump for the Grassland truck fill station, and the required monies come from the water and wastewater reserve in the amount of, should we put a dollar amount in, $38,000? It's 36,400 on here, but are you gonna get it at that?
Yes, I have a vote.
Okay, so at the amount of, let's say, $37,000 for nice minutes.
yes, for rounding purposes, that would work.
Councilor Mins, you okay adding that clarity in your
Yep.
motion?
You betcha.
Any further discussion? On the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? Okay, motion's carried 9-0, or motion's adopted.
We'll get her done.
I think it's 12. Everybody looks like they're hungry, so shall we break for 20 minutes or 30? 20? Okay, let's go for 25 minutes and come back. Sorry, so the called back to order at 12:25, and we are on item number 7.5, the follow-up discussion around the community coordinator position. And that's
Chair,
Councillor Holland.
when you're ready, I'll go ahead and make that motion to recommend to accept the delegation as information and to direct administration to gather information and associated costs and to forward it to the 2024 budget deliberations.
Okay, Councillor Holland has moved that we accept that for information and to forward that to the budget deliberations. Is there any discussion? Councillor Anderson?
Thank you. I really love the idea and the potential benefit to our community. I'm just not sure that an employee of a municipality is the appropriate place to put that position versus finding an appropriate existing society or group in our community and then granting them the funds to establish that position. I think it's just something about having it under the municipality's umbrella doesn't quite sit right with me.
Councillor Wallach?
I agree, disagree. I could see this also being part of economic development and hosting town tours for employers. Really trying to sell our community as a place to live within the municipalities. So I get the point of going into another nonprofit. But I think we potentially could expand this position to have a lot more benefit to us as a municipality.
Councillor Kapchanik?
I'd like to say, however, it happens to come about, first off, surprised the idea has never crossed our paths before, and I think it's genius. If we refer to our strategic plan, pillar 3, it meets almost all of those targets. I like the idea of it not being a specific employee of the county, but perhaps an umbrella, under an umbrella like a committee or an egg society. Something that can also apply for grants that are more specific to that, however that job role would be created. I would like to explore that more. Or have that be explored more.
Councillor Cromwell, where's yours?
Thank you. I agree, and I if the county is to participate, is to look into that, I think it's very important that we remember that we are a county, we're not the town of Athabasca. And our grasslands, our Wandering River, our Prosvita, our Rochester, our Manook halls have to be the priority of that person. Not just highlighting events that are happening within the town, though county attends that. It is very important, I believe, that our small rural communities are prominently showcased in a position. If we're paying funds into it, we are a rural municipality. That has to be front and foremost of what this person is doing. And that will help with everything that our committee is working on. And it is great for the region, but remember, we're rural and we have to focus that way.
Councillor Holland, you have your microphone on.
Thank you.
Now you've made the motion, so can you be the last
Sure.
to follow up?
Yep.
CAO. No, she's off the, I was gonna turn her microphone off though, because of the way it affects sound. So
Mr. Chair,
just everybody knows, the more microphones that are on the lower, whatever it does, it brings the volume down on all of them. That's why we're trying to. So
Mr. Chairman, through the council, I just want to advise that subsequent to us writing the report to council, the town of Athabasca requested a meeting with county council. And I believe this is one of the subjects they wish to discuss. So obviously there's some things that they would like to discuss before you would make a decision whether or not anyway. So just thought I'd add that. And I think they pitched somewhere later in November if a council to council meeting could occur.
is that,
I'll take that.
the specifics of that is something you think we should discuss in the calendar section?
Exactly, Mr. Chairman. Yeah.
I'll make a note and we'll. Councillor Chanzik.
Just thinking that that'd be a great tri-council perhaps topic as well. But I totally agree with the rural sustainability and making sure that our outlying areas are all represented equally and fairly, as well as everything within the region. And just wondering, when is our next tri-council? Do we know?
January,
January? That's
think.
far away.
December.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
I thought, okay. I thought I remember driving to Boyle and like 38 below and eating Chinese food.
Those are good memories right there, Reeve.
Well, maybe I'm thinking December because it seems like we have like a
It's just like Christmas.
turkey meal or something, but maybe it is January.
Councilor Gerlich, thoughts?
It was December. I have other thoughts too. but-
Do you want to share? You can share them with your microphone. He said he had other thoughts, but he doesn't want to share. I really think this concept is something we should explore, of course, because as I said to Ms. Clarout, maintaining community vibrancy is one of our tasks. And I think, there's probably, if we put our minds to it, creative ways to do this that don't that may or may not involve us actually doing it, but it might be providing support somewhere else, or so that certainly in terms of having admin do some more work, that would be useful. I was at the town council meeting where the same presentation was made, and there absolutely was direction from the town council to their admin to talk to us and see if we could find a way to explore whether it made sense from a partnership point of view. And I don't think it's unreasonable to phase things in. To start off and have a plan to say, here's the goal, and we're going to keep making the circle bigger. There are, and I think we all see them in our communities and regions, the small clubs that could use just that little nudge and a little bit of support to help make them stronger. And if we can do that, we're here doing this thing that we do, but there's all these other folks that are busy making the community halls vibrant and places that we spend time. Councillor Gerlich and then Councillor Holland.
Yeah, I think I still go back to the presentation that was made to us by the Amber Valley group. And basically, we're just kind of lost in how to proceed and I think it's vitally important that we have someone that can help and assist with giving direction and helping assist local groups as well as do the promotion of those groups. But a lot of our volunteer groups could be made a lot more effective if they had some assistance and some guidance and someone to go to for sort of some counseling on certain issues. So I think it's a good position, but it should entail more things than just what was presented here today.
Councillor Holland, you have the final word.
Thank you. And in hearing what everyone had to say here today, I think we're all very much pleased with the promotion and the presentation, pardon me, and the idea. I see this as a regional position, so that it is encompassing of all our municipalities. But I see this as being a position that is either under the county's umbrella or under FCSS's umbrella. We used to have a recreational coordinator position within the county. And when it disappeared, it was greatly missed. So I think that's something that should be considered, as well as other communities have these positions already available to them. They're either under FCSS or under their municipality. Barhead comes to mind right away. They're doing some pretty amazing things in that community. And they have a community development and volunteer recruiter. And it's huge. It's a big job, and it's benefiting their community through and through. So I'm really for looking at this position, but I'm looking at it as a regional position, and I'm looking at it as being housed in the county.
On the question of the adoption of the motion to accept the delegation as information and direct administration to gather information and associated costs and forward it to 2024 budget deliberations, all those in favor? The motion is adopted 9-0. Next item of business on your agenda is 8.1 calendars. Did it work okay last time to just work around the table? And we'll start this time with Councillor Cromwell and work our way right to left. Unless you want me to skip Councillor Capitan, if you want to start, well,
Well, okay. November 23rd, Northern Lakes College. That's all that I have to add on today.
Councillor Capitan, microphone.
A red on the 16th at 9:30 November. And then questioning December's calendar, Greater North and MPC on Christmas and Boxing Day. Are we taking those off?
I think we should cancel both. Greater North is not meeting on Christmas Day.
Okay, just checking for you.
It won't make quorum.
And I'm pretty sure MPC on the, when the office is closed, is not happening. So we'll make sure those come off.
So we're
Thank
okay to delete MPC on the 26th. Maybe that when it gets to the chair, he may propose to reschedule it to a different day.
Cool.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I would like to add November 20th, the multiplex meeting, 9:30 a.m. November 23rd, there is a joint rec committee meeting at 7 p.m.
Councillor Gerlich. Would it be reasonable to propose an MPC meeting at 9 o'clock on the 12th? That's right before county council, given the pace that they seem to go.
Yeah.
Of December. I'm looking at the calendar, it came in the package, and we want to cancel the MPC on the 26th. And we've got county council scheduled on the 12th of December.
Yeah. I'll look. Can we see if something else? Yeah, we should lump the NPC with. We could start.
Would it be agreeable to you if we proposed MPC at 9:30 and council at 10
Exactly.
on the 12th of December?
On the 12th of December, yep.
So it's up to December. See.
Any other things you want to add?
You say 9 or 9:30?
I think 9. I just said 9, MPC at 9:30 and kick back council till 10 because of the travel that it 9 o'clock creates problems for travel for
Yeah. Let's do
a
it.
couple of people.
MPC,
Some people show up late and it's at 9 o'clock.
council after it.
Just saying.
Just start at 9:30 anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, more?
I was just gonna say Blue Heron, I believe, is on the 20th of November.
Blue Heron on the 20th of November. I can tell you that I think November 17th, there is a meeting of the North Alberta elected leaders in Valley View. So I'll head over to that. That's the Mares and Reeves in the Northwest. And there is one of the coming for the Northeast. But I can't remember the date, actually. I gotta check. It might be on the same day. I'll double check. It's near St. Paul in a smaller center. And that's all. The other one that I had is I think as part of our CAO recruitment, TSI, we had agreed to do a discussion and gathering of council. And I think that's tentatively lining up for the 10th of November, but I'm going to look to the CAO to confirm. So that's basically a workshop type meeting. Is that fair?
That is correct.
Great.
That's November 10th. The meeting with TSI and Doug Labor to talk about the transition.
Priority setting.
Priority set. There we go. Thank you.
November 10th, Friday.
Yep. I think you're expected only to be to what you can make it to.
Yeah, 9:03.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's an all of council. Yeah, sorry. I thought like,
You
you
say
know,
what time?
obviously no meeting you can be forced to
Did
attend.
you say a time or location?
The CAO is like, I don't have a lot of information. The CAO has got that under control. I assume it'll be here. Cause it's our room and 9:30-ish.
Yeah, that's what it would be, Mr. Chairman. And
Okay. And if there's any amendments, obviously the CEO will send us a, you know.
yeah,
it's gonna
it
be-
kind of depends on Mr. Legore's schedule, so he's playing with it a bit, but I think it'll be in the morning of the 10th.
Okay, perfect. Sure, because the thing is over at noon on the 9th. Ish. And it's not that far. Counselor Wallach.
The healthcare meeting was canceled on October 30th and moved to November 27th. And I'd like to call a policy meeting for either the 16th at 1 p.m. or the 23rd at 9:30.
Yeah. I'm available on the 23rd and on the 16th. Find out one things.
Yeah, we just have a
A-Red.
meeting that morning.
So policy on the 16th
I'm good for the 16th.
at 1 p.m.
We have a red meeting before that. That's why. Well, probably, but
I mean,
we can do what we
Probably
can.
need 4
we need
days.
2 or 3 full days.
Yeah.
Would it be? From a council standpoint, would it be reasonable for the chair to select the highest priority things and target those so that the agenda reflects the length of the meeting? Because what I find is if there's 10 items and you put them all on the agenda, then I'm gonna read all 10 and try to be prepared on all 10. And if we're only gonna get to the first 3, let's not. Like, let's just, let the chair pick the chair's discretion, the whatever number that fits the time slot so that we're, you know, and then it's more respectful of admin's time too. They're not preparing for something that there's no chance we're gonna get to.
And
Is that fair?
and we need a deadline for our fees for that. Pretty
10,
close.
it's 10 days.
We wanted to put it in.
That's the agenda's out 10 days. So then you're 9, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's out on the 6th and then you need to have your stuff in by the 30th,
So
But I-
by Tuesday.
Monday, October
Monday.
30th. But there's already a gigantic list of
I
policies.
know, but they were like, I've been waiting for a policy meeting to
Oh.
get called to put something in. So I just want to know when to have it in by,
How about by Leah by Monday?
just because they're gigantic list doesn't mean we can't add to it. Okay,
Is that okay with it?
Our administrative team nods their head wisely.
alright, Monday. I'll put that on.
Okay, policy at 1 p.m. on the 16th of November. Counselor Wallach, other,
I think that's it, unless we want to do another policy meeting in December.
Yeah.
I can't wait. December is
What,
looking,
you don't want to do policy?
there's not a lot written in December, but
Not a minute, sorry.
so just on that topic, Counselor Wallach, do you want to call on for December to keep things moving?
I would say yes. Can we do the first week of December, Tuesday or Thursday?
There's a conflict here.
Okay,
I am correct, sorry, but FCSS got moved to the 16th at 1 p.m. instead of the 20th. As far as I know, it's gonna be here.
Are you free on the 23rd?
The 23rd, I am at a conference, but we can't make everything. So the 20th.
November 20th?
Isn't the.
no,
something
'cause
close?
when does Blue Heron meet, Joe? Late in the afternoon or the morning? So the 20th would work because Blue Heron's in the afternoon.
Oh,
We could do
Multiplex in the morning on the coast
of November.
of November, apparently. That's what I wrote down.
November 20th.
So the options are to do it anyway, and the FCSS members can
come when we're done.
come when they're down or go, and we just have to pick a different location, like that's not impossible. Or defer to a different date.
That's fine. We're not American.
I-
I don't really care about Thanksgiving.
Is Leah, can you
I'm gonna
suggest this as
What
what
we're trying to change dollars.
on what day? The 16th. That show that.
So we're gonna leave it at this 16th and. This policy, remember, policy is just a it's a discussion that advances the agenda. It's not like it's never coming to anything else. And is everybody okay with that?
And then. Can we do the first week of December for the second one?
Afternoon of the 5th?
Yeah. Like we can do meet a morning or, but it doesn't matter. I'm free that week, so whatever. Tuesday or Thursday?
Could we make it the afternoon of the 5th since we're in town anyway? Yeah,
What's on the 5th?
water, but they don't go all day.
So like a 1
So like a
o'clock.
1 o'clock start would be okay.
Looking at, possible budget there. We have it here.
Well, it's at the town.
Oh, this is.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so Councilor Wallach is proposing 1 p.m. on the 5th of December for policy. CAO, is your staff able to make that work? The 5th of December? Okay. I'm wondering, I mean, and before I move the floor to Councillor Chamzik, do we want to be setting a budget, some budget meetings in early December in advance of the council meeting on the 12th? Like, can we earmark the 6th, 7th and 8th as possible budget days? I know you should be paying attention to the name. Good group discussion. I know.
Not the 6th.
7th and 8th? Well, I like what I'm proposing to you is block of calendars is maybe for all of them, because we've not seen a comprehensive whole budget yet, and I think the agenda on the 2nd is going to be lighter based on what my understanding of what's coming on that meeting. So budget on the 7th?
Yeah.
And do we want to have 2 days nailed down, or
I would recommend the
11th?
11th.
Probably be yes. Oh, we've got December.
There's nothing on the calendar, so we're first.
Like,
I don't want to hammer it, or you want time to digest?
I would go 8 and 11.
7th, no, but the 8th's off for what, but
7th?
7th and 11th?
7th, I won't be able to be here for the whole day. But whatever.
There's conflicts on the 7th or the 8th, so I don't know if you can be here part of the day. Is part of the day workable? So budget chair, 7 and 11, 8 and 11, 6 and 11. Okay. 9 a.m., 9:30. Okay. Councillor Chamzik, do you have calendar additions or deletions?
No, just the FCSS on the 16th at 1 p.m. On the 24th, I have an online Northern Lights. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend, as I will be at the conference and a voting delegate. And I think that is it for now.
Councillor Holland? No trails things to add? Okay, Councillor Minns?
We've got November 8th is Alice meeting in Barhead. I think that's at 10 o'clock. And
We'll come back.
yeah, that's about it.
Councillor Wallach?
I forgot, there's a ASB chair meeting on November 1st. With Duke.
Now, the CAO, I think in the previous meeting, you said the council should be appointing the chair of ASB. Am I remembering?
Mr.
that?
Chairman, I'll have to check your ASB bylaw, but I believe the act specifies council supposed to appoint the chair, and that's, we did that as part of the org meeting at my previous place. Maybe,
If the act requires it, it supersedes our bylaw anyway.
yeah, so I'm not too sure around it. Unless something has changed in the last couple of years, but we used to do it, we used to be required to do it as part of the org meeting. So I'll refer that off to the ag fieldman and see where we're at.
And it would be my understanding that until a new chair is appointed, the chair is filled until the first meeting of ASB where they do an org meeting, so there's no vacancy. Correct. Councillor Capitano.
Just through the chair to Councillor Wallach, are you keeping A-rate meetings like the second Thursday, or will we have one in December on the 14th? Or the 3rd? Because that would be the 21st.
You're the 21st.
I'm not sure if you have to choose that now, I was asking if you're planning to have one in December.
So December 14th, ARED meeting. Tentative. Athabasca Regional Economic Development. Councillor Cromwell, at the org meeting, you started a topic around, coordinating dates. Do you want to? This is probably
I was just reading the procedural bylaw right now. We can discuss that. I would like to propose that we have scheduled committee of the whole days that are reoccurring, so that we can pre-plan them, not just at the call of the chair, but they are set out no different than county council meetings. We know exactly when they're happening in advance, and it is done and on paper.
Councillor Anderson.
So we've been scheduling the committee of the whole meetings for the third Tuesday of every month, except when there's a pre-existing conflict. So I would propose to keep it as that third Tuesday kind of going forward, but we do reschedule them just like every other meeting when there's a conflict.
So would we have a committee of the whole on the 19th? Okay, no, December, sorry.
So starting in January, once we approve the calendar, a second motion to say, starting in January, the chair can call a committee of the whole for the third Tuesday of every month for the 2024 calendar year. Does that work for you?
I believe that would require an amendment to the procedural bylaw, which
Because it
currently
says-
reads they'll be held quarterly or at the call of the chair.
Well, that's the call of the chair. The call of the chair covers that, and the chair can announce. The chair can announce in advance the intention to schedule them on the third Tuesday. So it probably doesn't need a motion, it just as a FYI. Is that agreeable to everybody else at the table? Just go. Will help us all to plan. Councillor Chamsley.
My only issue with that, with the current remuneration policy and with NPC and stuff, it's nice to be able to double back on some of those meetings.
If that's an NPC issue, and we can schedule those to, because NPC doesn't have a lockdown date either, as far as I can remember.
Whatever we could start for 2 minutes.
It would be nice to be back to back.
So I think NPC can be modified too,
NBC before council.
unless the NPC bylaw says something different, but. Any other adjustments to the calendar? I want to drag that out. There's been a ton of amendments, so the understanding from council to admin is the intention of the current chair is to call meetings on the third Tuesday monthly for 2024, and we can kind of bake that into our calendars for planning. And then NPC, we can address that. I mean, maybe that's even when we just zoom to. Is there someone willing to move adoption of the calendars? Councillor Cromwell has moved adoption of the calendar as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none on the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor?
Pre-voted? Yeah.
The motion is adopted. Number 9.1 is a discussion around the Northern Region Economic Development Grant. Counselor Wallach.
Thank you. Yeah, so the Northern and Regional Economic Development Grant opened on the 23rd. We had applied for it last year for some funding and would like to reapply this year for projects for the county.
So are you looking for a motion from council to direct admin to come back to us with a list of projects?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Is that a motion you're making? Okay. So, and I think for the benefit of our new CAO, we just want to make sure that there's action taken on. So the direction from council is to direct administration to come back to the next council meeting or the November 14th council meeting with a list of qualifying projects for the NRED grant. Any further discussion from council? Seeing none on the adoption of the motion to direct administration to come back to us with a list of projects that are grant eligible, all those in favor? 9-0, the motion is adopted. 10.1 I, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. We had our last multiplex society meeting on October 16th. We had a delegation from the EPC rugby team and their coach, Constable David McGlanagan. There we go. He talked about the new team, the benefits of the sport, and the opportunity for our local players. And they have some exciting opportunities coming up in spring when some tournaments start and may require a little bit of assistance to bring a tournament here. So great opportunity that might be coming to our region. We approved the 2024 operating budget subject to the approval of the town and county councils. So that'll be coming back here. The estimated operational deficit is $1.87 million for this year. The capital budget was tabled to the next board meeting as we realigned some of our capital budget priorities to align with some of the grant funding that we're hoping to attain. And the annual general meeting is coming up November 20th at 9:30 a.m. And I also just wanted to note that the concession at the multiplex is now being operated by the multiplex directly. So I really wanted to put a plug in. They have fantastic chef hired. The menu is really great. And I would encourage the county to maybe order some of our council lunches from there, as that's one of our businesses that we have a little bit of input into.
If that's a motion, I'll second that.
We need a motion.
On the multiplex piece, I think, because I attended that meeting as well, the operational deficit, I mean, I think the board and the management deserve a little bit of accolades. It was a $40,000 increase over the prior year. So there's a lot of focus and work on how to generate revenue and keep the inflation of expenses under control. And, you know, it's a lot of money to start with, but that the increase year over year is only $40,000. That's a relatively small percent on 1.8. I can't remember, is it 40 per muni or 40? It's 40 in total, I think. Yeah. So, okay, $60,000 in total on $1.8 million is pretty good. The other question as it relates to multiplex, I think, you know, was worth floating to councils to think about. The town and the county are landlords of that building. And we, I think, should probably engage in discussion about what portion of the capital maintenance is actually the responsibility of the landlord and not the responsibility of the tenant. Because we have a tenant that occupies the building and runs the facility and runs programs and all of that through there. So they're also trying to budget on, you know, capital asset reserves, but typically in a commercial lease, some things are the responsibility of the tenant and some things are the responsibility of the landlord. As we get into capital budgeting or big picture asset management planning, we need to think about the fact that we're a property owner there, and there are some components that are likely not the responsibility of the tenant. But I think that more will show up for that. 10.1X, that was, I think, Counselor Anderson too.
Thank you. So typically the joint rec committee only meets twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. We did meet on September 19th for our former meeting. But the village has requested an additional meeting coming up, so that's November 23rd, to discuss the memorandum of agreement between the county and the village on those facilities. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware that I intend to add the memorandum of agreement to our next committee of the whole agenda for discussion prior to that meeting. I'd like council's discussion on that topic and on that document prior to
Make it
us
more clear.
walking into the committee meeting. Just so we kind of know where council is sitting.
The appropriate to take a motion to receive the committee reports. The acceptance of the committee reports from commission. That's adopted. I think that includes the written report in there. It's currently we have a motion to enter a closed session. Councilor Carmel and Steve, we're going to closed session. All those in favor?
I was confused.
Counselor Gerlich has moved. We leave closed session. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? The motion is adopted 8-0. Counselor Cromwell regarding item 11.1. Your motion was to accept the update as information.
So moved.
Counselor Cromwell has moved to accept the update under 11.1 as information. Any discussion? Seeing none on the question of the adoption of the motion, all those in favor? Motion is adopted 8-0. On 11.2, the intergovernmental relations, Counselor Mins.
To table the discussion.
Counselor Mins has moved. We table the discussion on item 11.2 to the November 14th meeting. Is there no discussion on tabling motion? So on the question of the adoption of the motion, all those in favor? The opposed? Which way you vote?
For,
Yes, so the motion is adopted
Sorry.
8-0.
tell the mayor to stop texting me while we're in closed session.
Okay. On 11.3, Counselor Holland, would you move to accept the discussion as information?
Absolutely.
On the question of the adoption of the motion to accept the discussion under 11.3 as information, all those in favor? That's adopted 8-0. Before we adjourn, I guess the other one thing I wanted to bring to you was really just a quick note to thank you for your confidence at the organizational meeting. And, you know, while we don't always agree on every point, and we're not going to, that I think is healthy when we can have a debate and still be respectful of each other. And I, of course, would commit to continue to work to make sure everybody's point of views are heard and to make an effort, especially to those that are opposing. We're also at the halfway point in our term, and I think that, you know, it's a really important time where we're 2 days past the anniversary of the election. And you know, on that, I'm actually fairly excited about what we can do together with the leadership that's in place. And in my view, we certainly have the ability to return the county to a position of leadership in our region, which again, I might have said at lunch, I sometimes have felt like maybe we're a little bit of a hermit. We have a lot of potential with the mindset of the people at the table and the leadership at of the administrative team. So thank you. So the meeting is adjourned at 11 minutes past 3.
And council,